G'day West Coast Eagles fans, welcome back to True Eagle. Today I thought I would have another attempt at our best 23 and our WAFL team that shapes up. Now that we've made a few delistings, now that we've had a few additions, and now that I'm feeling pretty confident we can add a Willem Dersma into the mix. If you follow True Eagle AFL on Instagram, you may have seen that I've posted the best 23 already, and the way I shaped it up as a little bit of a preview to this video, when this video would provide a little bit of context, I suppose, as to the selections I've made. I've probably gone a little bit braver with this one, and really just picked the team that I would like to see. And I have moved players around, which is not necessarily something we can bank on by round one of next year. I've got a few different ideas for the way I reckon this team should shape up, and we're just going to talk about that. I could have just picked the same one I did pre-trade period, but that wouldn't be very interesting. This is some new thinking that I've had on this particular topic. By the way, as you're watching this, tomorrow morning, Perth time, I reckon it'll be 9 a.m. will ideally start. We are notoriously a little bit late. We will be doing a live show on True Footy, and Dylan and I will be going through the draft in particular. We are going to do team-focused segments on all of the teams with top 10 picks. Of course, we are at the forefront of that, so there will be some good Eagles discussion in that. There will also be a mock draft. So if you happen to be around 9 a.m. tomorrow, come say g'day, engage in the chat with us. And I tend to clip up the stuff into videos that people can just go watch the part that they want as well. So you can watch it live, you can watch it later. Either way, it'd be good to have you. Let's crack into this best 23 that I just put out on Instagram about 14 minutes ago. Let's start with the AFL team, shall we? And then move toward the WAFL team and the depth. So I've made a few additions here. The players highlighted in green are basically new. So I've got Waterman and Yo as they're returning to the side, and I'd like to highlight them as being very, very good, important players that return to this side that do strengthen us rather. We've also got Starcevic and Young through the trade period, and Willem Dersma, I think we can safely say will be an Eagle. Obviously, there is some degree of doubt. It's more likely the scenario where he doesn't end up in this team will be because we've traded the pick for something juicy. I don't expect us to move pick one, and if we do have pick one, we'll take Willem Dersma, as I suggested in most of my most recent content, that is, and certainly my last video, which I did on all of the prospects I'm considering for us having pick one and pick two in this year's draft, if you haven't seen that. So let's go through this team line by line, starting with the back six. This is actually where the first aspect of our team is starting to take shape nicely. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good, especially with the addition of Starcevic, who's he's a dual premiership player and a very quality defender. Sometimes the premiership player tag can, really have this sense of grandeur to it, and it does mean something. But with Starcevic, we're just talking about a really high-quality medium to small defender, and he's one of the best in the league, if not the best, at that particular role. So he slots nicely into our back six. I have heard, I don't even know where this came from. There's a suggestion he might play midfield for us. Until that comes through some more official channels, like, McQualter's saying that in a press conference, I'll hold off on that. I think he will be a medium-sized defender for us. If we tinker with that early, we might do. I'm not sure. I don't know how likely it is that becomes a massive success. Mind you, we do need some help in the midfield. But if you just take it on face value, that back six, it's pretty damn good. Starcevic, joined by Brady Hoff, who is another high-quality defender, a little bit underrated across the league, I would say. We did see him play some midfield this year before ultimately he moved back. Now, the thing with him and maybe Tom McCarthy there, they could be midfield rotations. But I think for the team balance, I think it makes sense to slot him back and maybe he rotates through the midfield. We know he's a very good defender. Tom McCarthy was one of the finds of the season last year, if not the single best find or gem found through recruiting processes. Tom McCarthy was absolutely unreal in his first year at West Coast and is a big part of our future. I certainly hope he sticks around because he's a high quality player. Now, we did see him play some midfield time last year. Again, I'll start him in his best position, which is halfback. And again, we'll go through the midfield there. Someone like an Elliot Yeo may not actually be able to run out full games as a midfielder anymore. So, between Hoff, McCarthy, and Yeo, there's some rotations there that are possible. And Ruben Jinby speaks for himself, second in the best and fairest. There's not a lot of weak points in that. I guess when you look at the key backs, they're not super proven, but I actually think we've got two good ones there. Tyler Young, I think, has played some really good footy for the Richmond Footy Club, and I'm really pleased we were successful in getting him over the line. We did need another strong key back prospect, and he's 27. He's only played 35 games, but I particularly remember the game against us, he killed us, but there's been patches around his ACL that he did in 2024 where he has looked like a very good young key defender. And Harry Edwards, I think, took some real strides last year. So I'm really keen to see how that pair goes. And I think Tyler Young easily slots into this back six, with Brock and Bazzo having to start in the WAFL as far as I'm concerned. So I'm pretty happy with that back six. When you lose McGovern and Barris in quick succession, I think that's looking really good. So let's move to the midfield. When you look at the on-ball rotation, Reed and Hewitt speak for themselves. Again, it'll be a question, how much Hewitt spends in the midfield as a full-time midfielder, and then the same applies for Elliot Yeo, of course. But Harley Reid is obviously a walk-up start. I've slotted Willem Dersma slightly cheekily into this side. What is his best position? I'm not sure. Again, I probably see him... he's a skinny guy, he's tall, he's a great aerialist, a great interceptor. I can see him playing halfback and wing for us. I think it will take some time before he can spend some real midfield time, but he'll probably get, a bit of a taste in there, and I think it makes sense. He's super athletic, super quick, penetrating kick, and like I said, can go behind the ball and take intercept marks, so he'll get into this team, no doubt. Bo Allen is, I think, a player that I didn't have pre-trade period, but now that I've rearranged everything, I think it kind of makes sense. Bo Allen on that wing sort of replaces Campbell Chesser, who I did actually have in the team before I knew that he was leaving to Carlton. Bo Allen is actually, there's similarities to them. Not really in the way they play, but I suppose the athlete, if you compare the athlete to Campbell Chesser, I think there's been a lot of wingmen that come to West Coast or play at West Coast and they get lost, and I think it's because they play a very sacrificial role, which is like running down the defensive side and just covering ground. Well, if that's a role that West Coast want to have again in 2026, Bo Allen is probably a great candidate for that. His running capacity is fantastic. He's really quick, super athletic. And again, another player who can play a little bit behind the footy and take intercept grabs, and he's very explosive. So in terms of being able to have the capacity to run the full length of the ground and defend, Bo Allen is that. It might not mean that, if he plays on the wing for us, that he gets a lot of possessions, but I think this is not a bad place for him to slot into the team as that a little bit of a selfless role as he develops. And to be honest, in that back six, I don't think there's a lot of room for him. So that's one of the new changes I've made to this particular team. I think this would be a nice role here for Bo Allen now that Campbell Chesser is gone. And to be honest, we don't have a lot of depth and quality wingmen to choose from. So then we move to the ruck. Matthew Flynn probably is our best ruck. Listening to McAlter talk, sounds more and more like Bailey Williams is now a forward who, will naturally need to ruck at times. But as the number one ruck, we only have Matt Flynn. Unless you really rate Cohen Livingston, I don't think that will change next year. I actually don't know what the situation is with Cohen Livingston. I don't think we've heard confirmation either way what happens, but I'm going to assume he's available. So now let's talk about the forward line again. This has some changes to it. Waterman comes in and Shanahan retains his spot. I don't think there's any doubt that Shanahan plays every game he's fit for, aside from resting him and stuff like that. He had a great season last year. So we got those two talls. Liam Baker, I feel quite strongly at this point, has to play in the forward half. When you consider the strength of that back six, we don't need him in there anymore. We do have good ground level players there, and that was what Baker brings, is those ground ball gets, particularly in defense. And we probably missed that a little bit, but I do think we also need a strong ground ball game in the forward half, and he's a really defensively sound player. Small body, but aggressive and tenacious, and can apply that pressure, and also, get the ball when it's at the ground level, which is something we don't really have a lot of, particularly in our forward line. So I think it's a no-brainer. Baker plays a bit of forward mid next year. Kelly, I've got on flank. It really needs to be the Tim Kelly that ended the year for West Coast and not the one that spent 2/3 of it getting lost every time he played footy. Now, I'd like to think he regained confidence and is going to come out that same player who is winning a lot of contested possessions, winning a lot of the footy, kicking goals, as he was at the end of the year. Naturally, I think we've all collectively lost a little bit of trust with Tim, but the best case scenario here for Tim, that best version of him, absolutely makes his team, and for me, he starts in the team, and then it's his spot to lose. But again, another midfield rotation, and another goal kicker, and another leader, of course, he makes his team. Tyrell Dewar, I think, slots into this team now as a forward. So him and Marek are probably the odd ones out here. They didn't play a lot of this role in 2025, and I would like to see that change. We'll start with Dewar. Dewar probably replaces Ryan as that actual potent forward. He is dangerous around goals. I also don't know if he has the ball use or decision making to really be a running defender, that rebound player. Now that we've got Tom McCarthy, we've got a few other options there. I don't know if we need Dewar playing in that back half anymore. And he's one of the few players we have that can find the goals. He can do it, from a set shot situation, obviously. He's decent overhead, and he can also kick from long range and kick goals. He's got some nice highlights already. As for guys who are actual natural forwards, again, we don't have a lot of them. So the guys I've omitted in this team, Tyler Brockman, I don't think he's a real big goal kicker. He seems like a smaller midfielder. The same applies for Noah Long, to be honest with you. And even Matt Owies to some extent. Is he a true goal sneak? I mean, not to discredit Owies, I don't think he had a great year. Obviously, he had a solid career at Carlton and he did kick goals. I just don't know if he has the craft, really, compared to some of these other guys. Same thing here goes with Marek. Now that Marek, what is he? He's not really a third tall defender. He plays more of that unaccountable role. And he is a pretty good ball user, and he found a lot more of the footy in 2025, but I don't think we have that same need for that drive in the back half anymore. Maybe I'm wrong. But what he also is a natural forward. And with Allen obviously out of this team, I think there is room for Marek to return to his rightful position as a lead-up forward, a little bit more like Gunston than he is a Jake Waterman, for instance. But he's also a great kick inside 50, and he's a great kick for goal, and he's crafty, and that's what I like about this team is I'm actually picking forwards who are forwards, and it's time to get Ryan Marek back to the forward line now that we don't need him as much in the back half. Thank you, Tom McCarthy. So that's the mix I have, and we'll go into the players that I omitted, obviously later in this video. Jack Graham clearly makes his team. Liam Duggan starts on the bench for me. This is a little bit of a statement by me. I don't think he had a great year, and to be honest, I think he's inferior to a lot of those back options that I pick on current form. I'm not completely off him, but he had a poor year, and he'll start in the team naturally. He'll probably still be a co-captain, but for me, I think he starts on the bench at best, to be honest. Jamie Cripps, leading goal kicker, I think, last year. He will play on for one more year, and because he kicks goals and is a great leader, he'll get the team. Archer Reed, again, we've got a 5-man bench now, so I think my justification there for picking another tall, maybe one more tall than you'd normally go, is sound. We did that with 22 players on the field anyway. He'll be the backup ruck, and he can rest forward as well, and I preferred him to Bailey Williams. I think from an output point of view, they're fairly similar, so why not go with the younger guy? And Jack Hutchinson, again, this one I would like to see him potentially spend a little bit more time as a forward. We recruited him as a forward. He spent some time as a midfielder and as a wingman. I thought that he got lost a little bit in 2025, and particularly he was quite fumbly. And maybe that's just a confidence thing, and we won't give up on him further up the ground. But we did recruit him as a high-flying, high-marking forward. And maybe it's time to just see what he can do. Now that I just look at our forward stocks, and I just don't think they are, there's a lot of forwards in the team. There's quite a lot, as you'll see when we get to the next team. But I think as far as actual forwards go, Jack Hutchinson is worth a crack here because we don't have a lot of quality options, in my opinion. So that's that team, and we'll move now to the WAFL team as it currently stands. Great, so I've got some players in green who, again, are new and have not formally joined the club, any of them, but we're going to assume that they will get here for the time being, and we'll revisit this, I guess, if they don't end up in the team. But let's start with this back six. Okay, so we got Luca Grego. He'll naturally be in a back pocket. Tom Cole gets omitted to a WAFL starting spot next year, and obviously a little bit of last chance saloon for Tom. I don't think he had a bad year, but I actually just think there's now some competition with the inclusion of Starcevic into this team. The Tom Cole starts out of it. Bazo and Brock, I am optimistic they can be decent AFL keybacks, but naturally I think they have less runs on the board than a Tyler Young, and they start outside the team for me. And Harvey on a halfback flank, again, probably had a little bit of a disappointing year by my expectations personally, but he'll naturally start outside the team. He was one of the few players that didn't play at all in 2025. So we have a spot there free. We actually have one less running defender. I suppose if you move Marek back, maybe he goes into the WAFL team in the back line. That is absolutely an option, but in the way that I'm forecasting it, or the way that I'd like to see it, this is not a prediction. This is what I'd like to see. I think we are one key running defender short, so we'll see how we go in the draft or with one of our 4 rookie spots. Charlie Banfield onto a wing. He's probably a natural wing. He's played a bit of midfield. He's actually a pretty balanced midfielder, to be honest, and he can swing forward and kick goals. But I think early days, starts in the team as a wingman. He's, of course, played for the WAFL Eagles already. Devon Robertson, There is a chance he plays a decent amount of footy for West Coast next year, but this whole exercise assumes no injuries, and that's just not realistic. So for me, as it currently stands, notice I have Willem Dersma in the team, and I don't have pick 2 because I don't know who that's going to be yet. It could be Dyson Sharp, it could be Cooper Duff-Tytler, it could be Sullivan Roby, it could be Sam Cumming, we could trade the pick, whatever. So I'm just leaving him out of the exercise, and as it currently stands, Devon Robertson is probably the first midfielder into the team because he's got some genuine AFL experience and a big body, and as that stoppage player, he's a little bit, maybe not unique, but I think he brings an important skill set to this team. He's not the most well-rounded midfielder, but first cab off the rank is the way I see it for Dev. I wouldn't slot him into the team best 23 as it currently stands. And Hamish Davis on a wing has the chance to play some decent footy for us next year. You could even argue he could go inside into the first team instead of Bo Allen, but I think Bo Allen probably plays that more defensive role, and Hamish Davis is unlucky. But I think he's a likely type, Hamish Davis. Harry Barnett in the ruck, Tom Gross and Clay Hall, who we already know about, as our bench, or our WAFL midfielders, rather. So let's move to the forward line, and this is probably where I've got it wrong, because Tyler Brockman seems to be someone who gets picked a lot, and I don't have strong opinions against him, really. I just don't know if he's necessarily best 23, and I would rather see some of those other guys. In reality, maybe it's more realistic that Brockman plays in the AFL team round 1 and Jack Hutchinson does not. There's pros and cons there. I think Hutchinson is worth a shot as a forward, and perhaps the whole package of his attributes excite me a little bit more, and I think there's more upside there. Brockman, to me, honestly did his best work as a 6th or 7th midfield rotation at AFL level, but he doesn't have the tank or the body, I think, to play a full game there. So for me, again, another one of these forwards that we have, and Noah Long's similar, in a different way, but similar in that they're midfielders who are converted into forwards. So Brockman could be into the team as that sort of impact midfielder, which he did a little bit at AFL level, and I thought he had a decent year. But he's not a big goal kicker, and he doesn't create a lot of chances through moments of agility or athleticism. So for me, this is the way I would put it, but he's close to the team. Noah Long as well, probably distinctly different, probably plays more that high half-forward role, and is actually a pretty good ball user inside 50, but not particularly strong in terms of his agility or his ground level play, to be honest. Doesn't find a lot of the footy either. So for me, these guys got to start in the WAFL next year. Just my opinion. Bailey Williams, again, probably we're likely to see him in the team in round 1, in my opinion. But I preferred Archer Reed, and I don't know if we play all of them, considering I made Ryan Marrick a forward in this scenario. Jack Williams, I think, could be a good AFL player, certainly a depth player at worst. Had a disappointing year last year, so I hope he gets himself sorted for 2026. Tyler Williams as a NGA, obviously we may not end up with him in the draft this year as a top 25 prospect, they reckon now. And there's a good chance to play a decent amount of footy at AFL level next year, from what I've seen. But, I haven't seen enough of him to justify putting him in the team. I wouldn't be surprised. He's already played some WAFL level experience. He's already played games for the WAFL Eagles. And probably, one of the more talented forwards we'll have, in terms of actual forward craft, that is. And Matt Owies, again, probably starts in the WAFL team. My honest expectation is Brockman, Owies, and Bailey Williams do start in the AFL side round 1. This is the way I would do it. Then our 3 bench spots, Jacob Newton, Malachi Champion, Cohen Livingston. These guys are a little raw and not super close to being AFL ready. We've seen a little bit of Malachi, we've seen a bit of Jacob, and to be honest, they looked okay, but they're pretty far off being the finished product, and I would like to see these guys continue to develop in the WAFL. I'm glad we gave them both an extra year, but I think it's fair to suggest when you consider how many small forwards this list now has, and we might even add Tom Berry, another small forward. We do like our small forwards. That's the sort of thing that makes me think, okay, well, if we're oversupplying the list with small forwards, is our AFL team going to have a lot of small forwards in it? And we're going to drop it all? Does Hutchinson come out for Brockman or somebody else? Maybe. But this is the balanced sort of view that I took, and I did have a strong bias in this team for guys who actually know where the goals are. So that is the way I see it shaping up for round 1. Again, I'll probably change my mind a million times. And of course, there's pre-season to consider, and pre-season form and injuries and the draft. We could have Dyson Sharp, we could have Sullivan Roby, and of course, Cooper Duff-Tytler as well. So let me know in the comments what you think of my justification of all these selections, guys. It was a fun creative process. This is all just really creativity and a little bit of strategy, of course. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure you check out True Footy tomorrow. Otherwise, you will see it as a clip sometime after that, the Eagles related stuff. But for now, thank you for watching. Up the Eagles.